Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be making a complete fool of myself as I yet again make stupid predictions in Rainbow Six Siege esports. We'll be doing APAC North, APAC South, NAL, and Europe today. Europe because I feel like doing an extra one. I won't do Europe too much. This is a bit of a one-off. Um, the reason I'm doing Europe is kind of just felt like it. I haven't watched much Europe. Definitely the one I've watched the least, so we'll be doing that, saving that for last. Um, yeah, hopefully I don't screw up Apex South like I did in the last one. If you want to see how badly I did, what I suggest you watch the reaction video rather than the actual one because the prediction was basically just made off faith, and my faith was completely off. Or well, it was 50-50, but my one prediction for the wildcard nights game was horrific. So, just a reminder, we are doing everything before July the 7th, every game that takes place before July the 7th, which is when I'll be doing the next prediction video. Uh, Fnatic Sandbox. Fnatic, they've only got one win. It was against Cyclops, and Cyclops, it was just inevitable they were going to lose at some point. I have to back Sandbox. The Japanese league teams are way worse than the Korean teams. Sandbox do have some glaring issues, as shown against Spear Gaming, who I thought were arguably the weakest team in the league. Um, but I think if they just if they avoid Chalet, they'll be fine. It was just their rotations were really dodgy. I just realised my camera's in the way. Yeah. So that's basically all I have to say about this. I think Sandbox definitely should win it. Reject talent. Now this is a hard one. See, my brain wants to see a Japanese team compete with the Korean teams. Rejects are the only team that can do that right now, and so my heart wants to see Reject beat Talon because if they do beat Talon, you can see they could be competing for that major slot. But even if they do beat Talon, like they're not going to overtake, they're not going to be able to beat Reject, Sandbox and Damwon. I'm going to say Reject do beat Talon on the basis that Talon are the weakest of the Korean teams. You can see they just got slaughtered by Damwon. Like I know it says 7-4, but it was like more Damwon throwing really than Talon coming back into it. Um, and Reject just beats Fav 7-4, which was a very impressive result. And actually, it should have been more if they hadn't been. They were a bit silly after the tactical timeout that Fav took, because they were 3-0 up and then they lost 4 rounds in a row. Um, so I back Reject. I think Reject are going to win it. There's not too much logic behind it, but they're definitely improving and they're on an upswing. Like Taraniki on the shields looked really good. Take and Window are getting more contributions along with Candy and Salty, and they just look much more cohesive as a team. And I think they genuinely could have a good shot at going to the major. I don't think they'll do anything if they do go to the major, but they could have a good shot. Just a reminder, when we get to Playday 6 and 7, I will actually talk about qualifying for the major a bit more. Hopefully it won't be decided by then. If it looks likely that it might be, I'll talk about it in Playday 5, but it shouldn't be. Um, so yeah, I'm backing Reject, but I expect this game to go to overtime, whichever way it goes. If it doesn't, then it's probably a Talon win, which would be a bit sad. But yeah, I think I'm backing Reject. Fav Cyclops. Depends. Depends on what Fav shows up and what Cyclops shows up. Cyclops, I'm hoping Cyclops will have a major reaction. They are a very strong team in APAC North, but they haven't shown it at all since coming back from the major. Like, if you look at the RJL, they are not doing particularly well. They lost to a team in the Japanese league who aren't good enough for the APAC North. Um, so yeah, I'm not really sure how to go with this one. I think number two will definitely be seen carrying again. It depends on how Cyclops and Fav react to the latest losses. I think Cyclops, it's more demands that they have a reaction. If they don't have a reaction, they will definitely lose. I think you'll either see Fav win this in a game in which Cyclops still don't show up, or we'll see Fav lose heavily in a game that Cyclops really do show up. Damwon Spear, I honestly, if Damwon play this properly, it could be 7-0, 7-1. Damwon should win this every day of the week. Next it should be NAL because that's just the order that I have them done. This league's fucked, dude. Wait, how's PBE doing? PBE, like, for those that don't know, PBE are like Balancing Kings. So PBE are going to beat Mirage in normal time, or they're going to lose in overtime. I'm going to say they're going to win in normal time because Mirage still don't look that good. Sorry, give me a second. Sorry about that. PBE still look better than Mirage. Marmalade's been improving a bit, but like I think their team's still lacking the firepower that other teams have as a whole. Benji Mueller still doesn't look that great. And I hate the fact that he's been calling Benji because there's another player called Benji who, in my opinion, was better during his time, but whatever. So yeah, there's that. Astralis Exet, I was still really unwilling to pred Exet to ever win a game, which is quite unfortunate because they're currently second in the league. Mostly the reason is because they're like China and they're visa merchants. But I don't know. This is hard. Astralis have struggled to close out games, and they've lost games that they should have won as a result. I didn't, as I said, I didn't see their game against OXG. Um, but OXG are quite. I think OXG are a much stronger team than Exet are personally. Um, Even though they haven't played yet, and this league is very, very competitive and very, very close. I'm personally going to say Astralis win this because I just don't want to see Exet win, even though I quite like Yoga and Spirits. Anyway, Beast Coast versus Sonics. God, Beast Coast. Oh, Beast Coast, Beast Coast, Beast Coast. What the fuck is this team? Um, they win the games they shouldn't, and they lose the games they should. I think this is a game they have a chance of winning, and so they're not going to win it. I'm backing Sonics to win it. That's literally the only logic behind it. Like, if you look at Beast Coast's games, they lost hard to DZ, fine. They then lost to OXG in a competitive game, fine. So then they would have been predicted to get slapped around by SSG. They win. Then they beat Exet, what the fuck. Then they beat Parabellum, fine. And then they lose to Mirage in the first game. Mirage won, which I will need to watch. Yeah, it's really, really weird. I have to say I think Sonics will win it, but who the fuck knows? OXG DZ. DZ still don't look that solid. Like they dropped 3 rounds to a TSM that didn't have their didn't have Geo, didn't have a main player. Um, and despite target banning a player, despite target banning against Charla, um, I don't know. I think actually win this, but there is definitely a world in which DZ win it. And there's definitely a world in which DZ make me look like a complete clown. SG TSM is really hard to predict. Like TSM didn't look that great this weekend, but you can say that a lot of that was probably down to the fact that Geo struggling with ever Geo struggling with. I'm still gonna back SSG because I struggle to back an org with the owner that TSM has. Um, but yeah, I think SSG should win that game. Astralis Beast Coast, I have to back Astralis. Like Astralis have their issues, like closing the game. They have other issues, like their inability to trade kills at times. But Beast Coast have greater issues. But again, Beast Coast to Beast Coast, they could come back and win it. DZ Exet, I think DZ should win it. I think DZ, they play well, as I said last time, they play well in 50% of their games. And I think this is going to be the 50% where they play really, really well. And I think they're going to beat Exet. Like, they have a really difficult weekend. They're playing number 1 and 2 in the league right now. But I see Exet being the game that they're more likely to win. OXG, SSG, I think OXG win it because OXG do not play in the typical fashion, and SSG hate it when you do not play in the typical fashion and they perform really poorly, which is why they'll never have success on the international stage because APAC and Brazil do not play in a typical fashion. PB, TSM, I think TSM come back and win this. They get over whatever issues they're currently having, and they come back and win. Sonics, Mirage, I think Sonics win this because Mirage is still not on the same level as every other team in the league, even if they're not a 0-0-0-0 team. Like, even if they're not a team that loses every game in normal time. I think Sonics should win this fairly comfortably. Right, now we'll do APAC South, because that's the order, and hopefully I can get my faith right this time. because this league makes zero freaking sense. Knights, Chiefs, like Chiefs are definitely improving, but I have much more faith in Knights. I got to back Luna Metal as a coach, because I've backed him throughout my entire career and the one time, my entire life, and the one time I didn't back him, um, he went and beat a team 7-2. So there's that. Also, Chiefs definitely still the worst team in the league in my mind. Uh, Direwolves versus Fury is a really hard one to call. Direwolves have not looked good since coming back from the major. Um, Fury, or even since going to the major, actually, being realistic. Fury are also not a very strong team. I think this is a very APAC South sort of game, and I think Direwolves are going to win it. Next, we have the clash between first and second in the league. This is really flipping hard to call for multiple reasons. So Elevate should be the strongest team. They are historically the strongest team. They were the strongest team last stage. I mean, Gladiators are newly promoted. They've already lost a game fairly convincingly to Invictus Gaming International, who just lost to Elevate. When I say fairly convincingly, it was like, yes, it was in overtime, but it didn't look like Gaimin were ever going to win it. I'm not a fan of Gaimin's org, but I'm a fan of their players. I'm a fan of Elevate's players, not particularly a fan of the org as well. Um, I'm backing Elevate to win because Elevate should be historically and currently stronger, but I would love to see Gaimin Gladiators win and change the face of APAC South. Invictus Gaming Wildcard. This is two teams that really need to make a response if they want to try and qualify for Berlin Major. Um, I personally would like to see Invictus make the response. I want to see Invictus win a game. Um, that's basically the only logic. I think based off this weekend, we could see Chiefs, Fury, and Invictus potentially lose out on their ability to qualify for the major. Personally, I think the only team you're actually going to there's two teams you're going to see that actually happen to, which is Chiefs and Fury. But Fury might not. Whereas Chiefs, I think, will. But then again, it isn't a game between two OS sides, and the OS teams are very notorious for randomly losing games to each other. Whether or not that has any significance in the league, they just tend to lose games randomly. Um, so personally, I'm gonna back that to happen. I'm gonna back Chiefs and Fury to lose touch with the rest of the league, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll have to see. So now we move on to my first time predding Europe. God, I remember the days when G2 were the strongest team in the league, and 7-5, 7-1. Oh my god. My Preds for this league are going to be like for the EUL are going to be completely fucked because my historical values go completely against the current scene. Like I'd have Heroic being one of the weakest teams and BDS and G2 being two of the strongest teams, like Orgs. Um, Outsiders Na'Vi. Oh, I mean they've both beaten Secret. Na'Vi managed to lose to the shit Empire. Um, Outsiders managed to lose to BDS. I had to think. I think Outsiders should win. Like on current form, Outsiders should win this game, but like on realistically, like who I think the better team is, I think Na'Vi are probably better team. I'm gonna pred Outsiders because Na'Vi are in shit form, but we'll see. Um, Pawns slash Empire versus Wolves. I think Wolves Esports win this every single time. I'm really not a fan of the changes they've made to this Empire roster. Um, yeah, I think Wolves are a lot stronger. BDS G2, please G2 just win it. Um, yeah, I'm from the days of Shaiku cheating, and I don't care what people say, he was cheating. It wasn't necessarily the macro, and people who just say it was the macro are slightly delusional. He was at least abusing bugs or random ping things that make no sense. Um, there was a lot of dodgy things that went around it on top of the 4-4-4-4-4-4-4 thing. And if you really looked into it, it wasn't really he was being banned for the macro. It was just that the macro was the only physical evidence they could get him on. So I want G2 to win this. I'm going to pred G2 to win this, but they probably will lose because they've been playing like shit. Heroic, Eminem, as much as it hurts, I'm going to predict Heroic to win. I hate the current Heroic roster. Like, and that's not any offense to Grizzly, Sloth, Gorgona, or Benjamaster. Full offense to Uno. Yeah, there is some personal private beef that he probably has completely forgotten, but I'm not a big fan. But I have to predict Heroic to win. Rogue Secret, it's pretty fair to say Rogue are probably the stronger side. I think Rogue are going to win this fairly comfortably. And that is it going to be it? Am I going to do Brazil Preds? You see, Brazil is like Europe where it goes completely outside of my mind. Like, okay, NIP in my head should be comfortably the strongest team. Like, yeah, okay, they've got a wizard who I've not heard of, but like Kamikaze, Psycho, Muzi, Pino, they're fucking sick in terms of like when I used to watch the game. Their resets, Palu. This team sucks in my mind, and yet it's it's beyond belief. Sexy Cake being with a guy called Neskin, whose name is apparently not inspired by Neskin, apparently was there first, makes no sense in my brain. And him being on a team that's 1-3 makes no sense in my brain. Furia having success in the siege scene makes no sense. FaZe sucking despite their roster makes no sense. BD being good with this roster makes no sense. Ints not being ridiculously strong makes no sense. MIBR with Lukid, who was the future of Brazil when I used to watch, and yet sucking makes no sense. But we'll try. Well, I guess we'll try. We'll try and do predictions. I guess. MIBR team one. You know what? Actually, for Brazil. Okay, before they go into Copa Elite Six, which I will do real predictions for, but before they go into Copa Elite Six, I'm just going to predict Brazil as if it's like what it used to be. And I'm going to do a separate series of predicting Brazil as it used to be. So look out for that. I will predict the rest of Brazil all in one video on basically how it should be in my mind. And we'll see how horrifically wrong it is because it should be horrifically wrong. Peace out. I'll see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, feel free to let me know. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one.